Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of Modcast VR, the official podcast of the Flat to VR modding Discord community. Today is a really exciting day. I'm Dr. Greg, by the way, and welcome to the podcast. Here's my co-host, VR Vran, or I'm always going to say his name wrong because I just say Vran. Sorry. Well, maybe in a year or so I'll get that better. It's Vran. So we're actually friends, believe it or not. And we're really excited today. Can't say his name, but you know. We're actually really excited today because we have with us the team lead of the team that's doing the Half-Life 2 VR mod that everybody is so excited about. I got to play it a little bit. I streamed it on Thursday, and it's fantastic. Welcome, Wormslayer.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Oh man, thank you for joining us. This is so exciting. This is our, like I said, our second episode. We had our first episode, which was. It was amazing, the response that we got. We had like 156 subscribers off of one show from 2 relatively small streamers. So that was pretty awesome. And got a lot of views, some really great positive feedback. And so, yeah, I think we've got something here. I think people are really excited about these mods and they really want to learn more about them. So we really appreciate it when we can find modders that are brave enough to come on with us. Let us talk your ear off.
Yeah. VR and Half-Life are 2 of my favorite things. More happy to talk about them.
Awesome.
Nice.
Hey, how long have you been doing this modding thing?
I mean, technically about 10 years now, but that hasn't been continuously for 10 whole solid years. That's, starting and stopping with different teams of people and stuff over various time spans in those 10 years. Mm-hmm. The original mod was made by a guy named Nathan Andrews.
Okay.
Back in 2012, he was experimenting with, this is like before even the Oculus Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
He was experimenting with a Sony HMZ T1, which was like a weird sort of head-mounted TV display thing. And he'd paired that up with like a really expensive third-party motion tracking platform that he had available. And he made this really kind of basic proof of concept of playing Half-Life in VR with this tiny field of view on the headset and everything. He showed it to a few people and I was like, holy shit, that's amazing. And I kind of got involved.
How big of an FOV are you talking about?
Jesus, I don't know. It was tiny. It was like viewing the blurb said something like, viewing a 50-inch screen at arm's length or something like that. So, it was like really narrow, maybe sort of 10, 15 degrees or something.
Wow.
It wasn't a VR headset at all.
I'm just thinking about back in the day when VR first started really showing up where people could try it, like in the early 90s, you had those massive things you put on your head in the malls, and you played, was it Dactyl Nightmare, I think was the one that I tested out, which, it's like flat polygons, everything was made, even the pterodactyl, I think was only 3 polygons, and 20 frames per second, nauseating as hell, and my mind was blown away.
Yeah.
So I imagine seeing Half-Life 2 in VR would just be like,
Dactyl Nightmare on the Virtuality CS1000 system. That was also my first VR experience back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And, there's it doesn't really serve any purpose, but if you look in the maps folder for Half-Life VR, there is a recreation of the Dactyl Nightmare map in there that you can play on.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
It's just a couple of floating platforms. It's nothing really. It's like you said, a few polygons. But,
yeah.
A little test thing we made.
Yeah, that disappointed me so badly. I waited in queue and I was seeing everybody wearing those huge helmets, I would call them, and I was so eager to go and test it. And when I saw that it's just polygons, I was so disappointed. I was like, never again, take it off, take it off. And I needed some help.
Yeah, it's like, you watch the Tron movie and you read Snow Crash and Head Crash and you've got all these images in your mind of what it's going to be like in VR. And then you put on this horrible low resolution, low frame rate, poorly shaded thing. Like, really, is that it? Is that all we've got?
Oh, man, I remember, though, first of all, I remember being instantly nauseated move it around. But the thing that just blew my mind is there in the middle, there was like a square, but it was like a donut because it had a hole down at the bottom on the bottom level. And the fact that I could bend down and look through that hole, it just blew me away.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's glad that we've got back to where we are now. Okay. So that has nothing to do with Half-Life, but anyway, it's just an interesting, I hear this thing about that blows me away that this was really going on that long ago with Half-Life, like 2012. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
10 years. Yeah, when you started, like you said, 10 years.
Yeah.
So,
But
a long time.
is that when you first started? Oh, go ahead, Rand. Go
ahead. Because
All right.
I was just wanted to say, like Half-Life 2, when I played Alex, and after I played Alex, I said it on the previous episode, I didn't know what to play next. And then I was like, okay, I would use Vorpex to play Half-Life 2. I tried Gary's mod, and I wasn't sure that it would just go in a chronological matter to go between the levels, because you had all the levels ahead of you and you can just double click, and I was like, I want to start from the beginning, when we see G-Man when you're on the train, and I wasn't sure. I was like disappointed by that, so I played it in Vorpex. But when I did talk to people, they said, well, Half-Life 2 is VR, you can play it in VR, just activate the VR. And I couldn't make it happen. It just wouldn't work for me. And of course, then you can't play it in VR until you guys came up to the surface. But you couldn't play this.
Kind of complex history, the VR of Half-Life, because at one point, around the time of the DK1 Kickstarter, Valve actually added official VR support to the source engine for Team Fortress and Half-Life 2. And we kind of we built off of that, but then they completely abandoned that idea, and I think possibly they even removed it from recent versions of Half-Life 2, like it's not even in there anymore, maybe. I haven't actually checked
it's not.
Yeah, it was kind of a shame. Like, I felt there was a lot of potential there, but like they were targeting the DK1, which obviously had only 3 degrees of freedom tracking. There was no positional tracking, and there was no motion control. So you were there on the gamepad or the mouse or whatever. So they had to target that, and it was not a very good experience at all.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. Yeah. So yeah, because this mod, if I remember correctly, because I remember when I first got my Vive, like back in like 2015 or whatever it was, I remember seeing something about this mod being worked on, and I was really excited about it, but then it just kind of dropped off the radar and never heard anything about it until recently.
Yeah, it's been through a few different incarnations. There was obviously the original sort of prototype, which wasn't even designed for VR headsets. And one of the biggest problems with that was that all weapon models in Half-Life 2, you only ever see them on screen from a very specific angle. And if you actually turn the model over, it's just missing all of the
half of it's gone. So
when you play it in VR, it's like you're trying to wave the gun around, and it's really distracting, the fact that there's just bits missing from it. So I originally joined up with Nathan to rebuild the missing parts of the weapon models. And we put together a pretty good DK1 kind of version of it with the old Razer Hydra controllers. They were pretty clunky, they had wires and they had a really short range from the base station and stuff. It was a bit of a weird experience, but it was enough to give you, like a taste of it. You could see where it was going to be once this came together, and the big money players started iterating on this technology. And we kind of worked on that for a while, but we kind of we were basing a lot of it on Valve's native VR support built into the engine. So when they cancelled support for that, and even like Oculus and Valve, they switched away from this concept of using the headset as just like a monitor that was attached to the system and using it as a dedicated VR device. And that completely broke compatibility with the old API layers and stuff. So our mod, just that was it, no longer works. That was the end of it. And that was kind of it for a good year or two. And then a few other people kind of, they sort of approached me and they're like, hey, what happened to that mod? Are you still working on that? And I explained that, it was kind of dead. And we got to talking, and they were like, hey, I know a bit of programming. I know a guy who does some API stuff. We can probably get this thing working again. And that was sort of the start of a long period of development with, I don't know, like a good dozen or so people over the years coming in and working on it a bit, and then, moving on to other things, or just, being unable to continue with it for whatever reason. And that kind of like dragged on for a long time. We were making progress, but it was difficult with people coming and going on the team. We'd get some new people in, and they'd have to look through the code base and figure out what the hell was even going on, and what needed working on and stuff. And yeah, that kind of that petered out again, and there was sort of like a dead period where it was basically just me, and I'm not really a programmer. I'm a sort of hello world level kind of guy when it comes to that sort of thing. So there was, just nothing really happening on it. There was one guy soldering away, working on some stuff. And then even he got kind of caught up with school and life and stuff, and had to put it to one side. And then, I guess about 8 or 9 months ago now, I got to talking with Elliot from the VR Flat VR Discord, and he was like, "Hey, I can hook you up with some guys." And he brought in Dr. Beef, who helped with some of the sort of core API stuff, and also Kabbalistic, who is now our lead programmer and has been doing all the wonderful work that you guys have been playing.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that, because I knew when we had our another podcast, Trip VR podcast, VR Bug got Dr. Beef for an interview. I think we were the first people to ever interview him, so it's pretty cool. It's actually our biggest episode that we did of that whole podcast. Everybody wanted to hear from Dr. Beef. But
he's a bit of a celebrity in the scene.
Yeah, that was my question, because I think then we were talking about Doom 3, which is also one of the most brilliant mods ever. I mean, and the way it works on the Quest 2 natively just blows me away. It feels like a native game. But that was my question for him, was Half-Life 2. Is it possible on the Quest 2? I think it would be. And his answer was yes and no, because I think he said it had to be an Android or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, basically Half-Life 2 is written for PC hardware, so, Intel-based CPUs and stuff. An Android system is quite different. But there is apparently an actual Android native version of the Source engine that exists as a thing. So beyond the realms of possibility.
Okay, so we need to make this happen so I could tell VR Bug, I told you.
Yeah, it would be kind of a whole next project, though,
yeah, I bet.
Quite a different kind of proposition.
You would mention something about physics side effects is one of them I want to ask you about, because you were talking about this when I was playing. It is really interesting.
The Havoc physics engine that they use in Source, it's got some unique kind of jankiness to it. I'm sure you see, people doing weird speedrunning hacks, like humping walls while they're holding a crate and using it to fly through the level and all that kind of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really funny. We had because I picked up a guy in my stream. I just picked up one of and he just started spinning around and around.
Yeah. I mean,
it happened to me.
Kind of a bug, but we haven't really tried too hard to eliminate it because it's just hilarious.
Yeah, no, stuff like that is fine.
It's part of the game. It's part of the. It's totally part of the game. I had a bug in the game. In the beginning when you go from the trailer, you go up and then you smash some crates and then things collapse and you go by the fire and there's a crow or a raven, whatever you want to call it, and it flies. It didn't fly, it just stood there. So I picked it up and it was dynamic and I was like, oh. And I stayed like this for about 3, 4, 5 minutes, just doing like an airplane. An adult standing in his room with the VR headset and just doing this. But it's so much fun and the physics works. And I'm assuming that you're talking about this because I wrote this down because in the stream, you told Greg, oh, you don't have to smash the vents. You can
You just grab them
with your hands.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's those things. It's just such a small thing, but it's such a huge thing.
I need to keep remembering that I can like actually pick up physical objects and use them to block and stuff like that. That's great.
Yeah.
That's like something you would do in Alex.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It didn't even occur
It's
to me.
amazing.
The playtesters doing it. He was running around with a pistol in one hand, and he picked up just like a bit of physics junk in his other hand, and he was using that as a shield to block stuff.
That's crazy.
It's amazing.
It actually was really surprising to me because I played through this game with Gary's mod, and I loved it. I thought, I mean, for the most part, it worked really well.
Yeah, it works pretty well in Gmod.
Yeah.
It's more of a sort of sandbox than an experience.
Exactly. And what you guys have done, what I was super impressed with is this. The mechanics, so much of it just felt like I was playing Half-Life Alyx. You know, even though I kept going through the rapid thing with the button on the gun, I kept forgetting to use this little weapon selector thing on the side. You know,
the wheel.
yeah, the wheel. But you know, just everything felt like grabbing the ammo from behind your back and slotting it in and all that. It all felt like Half-Life Alyx. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
And
I
huge
mean, obviously we
improvement.
took some inspiration from playing Half-Life Alyx. But it was interesting when we did play that to see that they'd already come up with some of the same solutions that we had previously. It was like, you know, these are obviously sort of like fundamental solutions to VR things that work.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, we definitely took inspiration from Half-Life Alyx, and we're like, well, you know, people are going to be expecting to be able to just reach over your shoulder and grab the gun. We were working on like a belt-based system before, but because of Alyx, we were like, okay, you know, it's going to have to be over the shoulder now.
Yeah. I also love how, just because it is VR, the nature of VR, you know, like a developer like you watching people play, it's got to be hilarious to see things that people do to solve problems that weren't even in your mind of how you could do it. But like, for instance, for whatever reason, I couldn't push the washing machine into that thing, that physics puzzle. So I just threw a grenade at it, and it blew it up, and it blew it right into the thing.
It was a brilliant shot, yeah. I didn't think that was going to work. I thought best case, it would just go flying off to the other side of the room and progress, but no, you nailed it.
It's amazing. Everything works. Whatever works, do it.
Oh my God. And
it's amazing.
The airboat. Let's talk about that for a second, because that was so much fun. I didn't get to play that with Gary's mod. It made me so sick. What did you guys do to make that feel so good? Because it felt awesome.
I mean, probably the two biggest changes we made were we removed the camera roll. So before, like, you were actually in the airboat, and if it flipped upside down, then you would flip upside down. You know, your viewpoint would go with it. But we've locked that off now, so the airboat can do a barrel roll, but you still stay the right way up, which helps a hell of a lot. We made it a lot less twitchy as well. The steering on it was almost like binary. You know, you're just like, you touch the thumbstick left and like,
oh yeah, it was so terrible. I was sick within 5 seconds.
We've also got some like VR comfort options, like motion vignettes to dim out your peripheral vision and stuff when you're driving around. But yeah, it's the airboat and the buggy are they're pretty playable now.
Yeah.
In the old days, they were like, you know, everybody would say, oh, you know, it killed me. I had to stop playing there and just skip to the bit that was after that. And
that's what I did, yeah.
But, no, we haven't had anybody complaining about motion sickness with the new version.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You know what else I loved is the way you guys did the gun. That was such a blast. When that gun got mounted on that airboat, because it's just like holding a gun and aiming. So it's so easy to do while you're driving. And you just feel like such a badass driving around, and you're just like blowing guys out. Yeah, it was brilliant. It works so well. I was worried.
Drive by and shoot people as you go past them.
Exactly. It's fantastic. I was worried that you were going to attach it to the right thumbstick, because I absolutely suck at aiming with the thumbstick. So
even in the old versions of the mod, we had it locked to your head, so it was like an Apache gunship where you look around and with the reticule stuck to your face, kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't mind that either, actually.
Yeah, it's still an option because a lot of people liked that. But the default now is just aiming with your offhand like you're holding a gun, which works great, I think.
That's awesome.
It's crazy how you guys. I, I'm always speechless about how you guys do this, because coming from film, things are animated or moving to a camera, and when you're in VR, there's no such thing. The camera is your head,
Yeah.
and maybe in games sometimes the characters would wait until you turn to them and then they would start moving, and that's what it felt in that bug, that the crow was just standing there, and then it starts moving until you look at it or get to the trigger point that makes it fly. But how do you guys do that? How do you? It's mind-blowing to me, and people don't understand. People just think, I just put a headset and turn it on, and there's so much involved, and we're so we can't really imagine how you guys do it, and what is the approach even to start doing this? How do you break the game to make it work for us in VR? Even what you said with the gun, that it's only you actually said it. It's only visible in one angle, and once you turn it.
That's a very sort of cinematic thing, you know, like the stage that the camera can see, it extends from here to here, and, you know, everything else is just like, you know, a garage somewhere. But, you know, when you're looking at it in the camera, it's like, that's it. It's, you know, an alien world. Or
it's there.
I mean, I can't take too much credit for that kind of stuff, because a lot of the, you know, the scripted events and stuff, that was done by Valve in the original game. We've just sort of like you know, built on it. I think maybe the thing with the crow that you experienced could be related to the fact that we made Gordon a lot slimmer than he used to be. He used to have,
thank you, Gordon.
Gordon Freeman. Yeah, he used to have quite a you know, a rotund physics box. So you know, you would bump into the triggers at a certain distance. But that also meant that, you know, if you tried to like walk up to a table or something, you would bump into the table and knock it around, and everything would fall off. So we've kind of like shrunk the physics bounding box for Gordon down quite a lot, so it's more sort of human-sized now. And that's had a few weird effects, like I think maybe the crow thing was you didn't quite get close enough to trigger it, but you were still close enough to see it, kind of thing. And Greg, I noticed you got attacked by a Combine gunship, and you were like, you turned and ran down this narrow alleyway, but that wasn't somewhere you were ever supposed to be able to get into.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought I'm just going to run through here. Then I couldn't go any farther. It's like, no, as he's just pelleting me with bullets.
That's something I've been doing recently, is going around finding some of these weird holes that people can get into now that Gordon is a lot slimmer, that you're not supposed to be able to get into, and I've had to go around and start plugging them up with, you know, invisible tools. Because
there was another thing in the game that some of the Combines dropped or fell from a bridge, and you said that you can't shoot them while they're falling until they're actually.
Yeah.
How do you? Can you change their trigger?
I think so. It's like on my to-do list to look into that, but it's just something from the original game. There's this bit where these cops are scripted to kind of like jump down from the sides of the canal and attack you. But the way they're scripted, they're invulnerable to your bullets until they get down onto the ground. And every single person I've ever seen play that, they always go, and just like unload a whole clip into this guy as he's climbing down. Yeah. And then it's confusing and disappointing because nothing happens, and then you have to reload your gun while he's shooting you in the head.
That happened to me.
I would like to make it so that you can just like gun that guy down dirty as he's trying to climb down on you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Hey, is this mod? Will it work with like other mods for Alex, or will they break it?
Not mods for Alex, because Alex is.
Oh, not Alex. That's not what I meant. Yeah, I meant Half-Life.
I know what you meant. So it should be. Like we've based it on the Source 2013 SDK, which is Valve's like public source engine SDK that they put up on GitHub for everybody to make mods with, and that is basically the Half-Life 2 engine. So any Half-Life 2 mods that do not rely on custom code or custom weapons should be compatible with our mod. So, like, you know, texture mods, model replacements, custom maps, all that kind of stuff. You should be able to just, like, load it up and go.
Awesome. Okay, that's what I was wondering, because sometimes, you know, they don't work. I know somebody was trying to put on, I think it was when I was streaming Resident Evil 2 Remake, with that mod, and somebody was on the channel, and then they decided to go check. It was like, you can't put the sexy mods on Claire; they don't work.
Yeah.
But she doesn't have a head, so that would be creepy anyway.
Yeah, no, I hope that we get people playing old mods, or maybe even making new mods based on our sort of VR version of the game.
Absolutely. I'm hoping that somebody could take what you guys have done and convert it into Black Mesa.
That would be awesome, yeah. A few times over the sort of 10 years that we've been doing this, we've been kind of like developing, not alongside, but at the same time as Black Mesa was being developed. And I have spoken to a few guys on their teams over the years about adding VR support. Up until recently, their answer was always that they wanted to finish like making the actual game before they worried about adding more, complex new stuff like VR support, which is perfectly understandable. But maybe now that they've actually finished it and released it, there's some room for a VR version. But obviously, they're not even using the old 2013 engine anymore. They got licensed from Valve to use their newer code. So it would be, a whole new thing that would have to be done in collaboration with them, with access to their source code and everything. But I would love to see that, yeah. Black Mesa's awesome. I love that game.
It's so good. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. It's better than the original Half-Life, let's face it. It's the same, but all polished up. And
it's beautiful. And those last levels are just...
Zen is amazing.
They're so good. Yeah.
I frequent some sort of source engine modding forums with some of the guys who worked on the tools and the maps and stuff for Black Mesa, and some of the technology they developed for that is really nice. Like a lot of it's done with a custom 3ds Max plugin. They make all their maps and stuff inside 3ds Max rather than in the old source engine tools.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Gives them a lot of freedom to do more sort of complex and detailed stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. Here's a question. Somebody had asked, are the episodes, like episodes 1 and 2, are they also going to be working with this mod?
Basically, in the old versions of the mod, we already released episode 1 and episode 2 as part of that. But we will be doing. They'll be separate games rather than being just like moshed together.
Okay.
We talk about kind of merging it all down into one continuous experience where there's no break or anything. You sort of finish the last chapter of Half-Life 2 and boom, the first chapter of episode 1 loads, kind of thing. So there's a few sort of technical reasons why we decided not to do that, and also Valve wanted us to keep them as separate products as well. So yeah, we will be releasing episode 1 and episode 2, but as separate standalone experiences.
Okay, awesome. So this is all, you've done all of this with Valve then? They've kind of given you your blessing? And
so the original versions of the mod were completely unrelated to Valve. Like, we did kind of approach them, but who were we? We were just some guys, and they were already working on their own native VR support at the time. And then they kind of abandoned that whole branch of the engine, and we tried approaching them, but it's difficult to find somebody there who will just talk to random, nerds from the internet about licensing their technology and stuff. So nothing really came of it for years. And then through some basically random lucky connections, like a friend of a friend knows a guy at Valve kind of thing, we managed to get a hookup there, and they ended up actually licensing the source engine to us and giving us access to the source code for Half-Life 2 and the uncompressed art assets and stuff. We started working with that because they also gave us the newer versions of their engine, the CS:GO branch, and we were going to upgrade the whole thing and base it on this new version of the engine, which has some technological improvements and stuff. But the way they do licensing now, it used to be you just had a team license and that covered everybody who was working on the project. But then they switched over to this thing where you just have individual member licenses. So we were kind of trapped in this cycle where we'd bring on a new programmer, but we couldn't show them the source code because they didn't have a license. we would apply for a new license to them from Valve, and then that would take like sometimes a long time for it to go through the chain and get signed by somebody on the board of directors and stuff, and then eventually that person would have access. But sometimes like they'd have got bored and just moved on to another project because there was nothing for them to do for months after months after months. So we ended up like the version that you guys have played is not actually using any of the licensed code that Valve gave us at all. It's all based on the public 2013 SDK that everybody bases their mods on. So yeah, we do technically have a license, and we could be using the shiny new tech, but that's all kind of in legal limbo at the moment. So we're just working on the public stuff.
That brings me to another big question. So tell us what's coming with the beta. I know there was something about improved textures and weapons and stuff like that. So what's coming in the future? What are the big changes and new content that you guys are adding?
I mean, we've been pretty busy. Mostly just like even episode 1 and episode 2, Valve added a lot of new like technology to the engine. So just by loading up the maps and then compiling them with the map tools that shipped with episode 2, for example, you instantly get like better lighting and stuff just for free doing that. So, the first thing we did was recompile all the maps using newer tools. And that's what you guys have been playing, is some maps that I did back in like, I think like 2017 was the last time I compiled them. So they've got, sort of better lighting than the retail Half-Life 2 maps.
I could really see some of that, man, like the light coming through windows and the dust and everything. I don't remember that before.
No, I did add a few little touches, like some fake volumetric lights and some dust particles and things in a few places.
At the attic in the
beginning.
beginning.
The attic at the beginning. I was like, wow, I don't remember this looking so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, the like I said, the version you've been playing, it's got sort of old maps from several years ago, and that's basically because they're sort of like, we know they work pretty well and they're relatively bug free, so it allows us to concentrate on this phase of beta on just testing the code and all the changes we're making there. But sort of alongside with that, me and some of the other guys have been working on new versions of the maps and content. We've been using AI to upscale some of the textures, which has been working pretty well. A lot of the textures in Half-Life 2 are, I mean, for 2004, a lot of them were really quite high res, but also even in 2004, some of them were like, oh, dude, it looks like you copy-pasted this from Half-Life 1, it's like 10 pixels by 10 pixels. It's just a blob when you get up close to it. So, yeah, we've been sort of targeting some of the sort of more high-value textures and models and things, and then, bringing them up to, I wouldn't say like a modern standard, but a less obviously kind of, low-res appearance.
Okay. So, and then I think Elliot had said something about you had like better weapons coming in, or was he just talking about the animations and stuff?
No. So the weapons that are currently in there, they're mostly the old versions that I made. They started out as literally the weapons you see on screen in Half-Life 2, and then I loaded them up into a 3D modeling package and started filling in the missing faces on the back and that kind of thing. And they're not terrible. At the very least, they still look just like the weapons from Half-Life 2 because they are. But those weapons, they were made with the limitations of 2004 technology, and some of them aren't that well made. And yeah, we've had a few talented people working on completely new high-resolution versions of all of the weapons, essentially. I think at least one of those is in-game now. The crowbar is a nice new high-res version, nice high-res textures and everything on it.
Nice.
But yeah, theoretically, we're going to replace all of them with sweet high-res models in the near future.
I can't tell you how much I appreciated being able to really swing the crowbar and hit things. Because, with Gary's mod, you just have to hold it out and pull the trigger. It just didn't feel right. Just able to break things. And, man, those things were great against those damn man hacks. That was awesome. I'm so glad somebody said something because I was wasting ammo trying to shoot those damn things.
surprising number of shots with the guns to take them down. It's much more convenient to just smack them out of the air.
Yeah. Like there's another mod for a different game, GTFO. Also, you can't really swing. You kind of need to hold the trigger down. Or I think that the latest one, maybe you
can. You still have to hold the trigger to charge it up.
You need to
but then
hold
you
it
can
down.
swing. Yeah, it's different. It's different.
But
that's a different
this is
mechanic than this.
Literally.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
But
you
it's
sort of, you need to be able to just flail your arm around like a caveman kind of thing. So, you start panicking, shit's coming at your face, head crabs are jumping at you.
Yeah.
You don't think, you just go, and you smack it out of the air with your hand. It's very sort of instinctive and natural.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Oh, I know somebody had mentioned too on my stream. They were asking about it. Now, granted, we've already talked about the airboat, but and I don't think this is necessary at all. But I'm curious about it because I thought about this when I was playing with Gary's mod that might help with something that might help with people with motion sickness. Are you guys working on like actually manually steering the boat, or are you just going to stick with the thumbstick?
Actually being able to reach out and grab the steering wheel or the handbars and manually do that is on our to-do list. It's on our wish list, but it's not something we're looking at right now.
It's not, like I said, it's not needed, but it's just...
Yeah, it is one of those polished kind of things that we want to add, but we want to get, the sort of fundamental game-breaking stuff nailed down first, and then we'll iterate on it and maybe add some more featureful stuff like that. But I personally would love to be able to do that.
Oh, yeah, I think it'd be great. Just...
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
But one thing that comes up is, right now, the beta that you gave us, the key that you gave us, it's almost like a separate game. So what I did, I got that, and then I uninstalled Half-Life 2, and then the mod didn't work anymore. And then I was like, okay, and then I chatted with you on Discord, and I said, yeah, that error is because you don't have Half-Life 2 installed. So the final product, do you think that it's just going to be something that we're going to put in the Half-Life 2 folder? Or is it going to be the same thing, like two separate things that work together?
Yeah, we've already gone beyond the point where it's like a mod that you add to the Half-Life 2 folder. It's now a completely standalone thing. But we are still referencing a lot of the content from Half-Life 2.
Yeah, okay.
But that's more of a sort of convenience for us developing it, though. Basically, if we haven't changed a thing, then it's just falling back on whatever's in the Half-Life 2 data files, and that's quite convenient for us. It gives us a very clear definition between what was in the original game. But yeah, it is possible that as we approach a more sort of like final version of the game, we might just take all of the Half-Life 2 stuff, which, as I said, about licensed to us anyway, and just mash it all into the pack file, so it is truly standalone. But you will still have to at least own Half-Life 2 on Steam for it to work.
Definitely.
That will be a requirement regardless of whether you need to have it actually physically installed on the hard drive at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Here's a question. This has nothing to do, okay? We're going to go on a segue here. This has nothing to do with Half-Life 2 and nothing that you've probably worked on. But I just have a question because I've thought about this ever since I saw it. I can now get either on Android or on my phone here, I can download Alien Isolation and play it on Android or my phone, right? And from what I've seen, I haven't done it yet, but from what I've seen, it looks amazing. So when I see that, my question is, if it's on Android, could they put it on Quest 2?
Yeah. I mean, if it's running natively on Android hardware, then there's nothing technically stopping it from running on the Quest, which is itself an Android device. That's
exactly what I thought. So we need to talk to some people and make that happen. Talk about a system seller. I would think that would be one that people would want to play because that game is brilliant in VR.
It's like shit the whole time. You're just
exactly.
Like,
That's exactly what I said. Shit the whole time.
Well, I said a few other words, but we're trying to keep the show PG-13 here.
Yeah. I mean, even though I make graphics and stuff and I design VR games and shit, when you're in there, you're still like quite immersed in that, and it's still a very intense experience, even though that that's just a bunch of polygons and it's your shader and stuff.
Even playing with this.
Yeah, I don't mind playing
Even
with
playing
gamepads
with this
at all.
No.
But boy, do I appreciate good motion controls. But Alien Isolation really doesn't need them, to be honest. You don't.
I think in many ways is the isolation. It's like your hearing and your sight and everything is cut off from the world around you, and you are fully immersed in that space station or whatever, and that alien is really stalking you. You can see it over there.
Oh God, it's so scary. It's seriously one of the best VR horror games I've ever played. And it wasn't even well, I guess they were making it for VR when they started, weren't they?
Yeah. Apparently, they were originally planning on releasing it officially as I don't know if it was going to be a standalone product or just like a VR mode that you could activate. But somebody just sort of hacked back in the native support that was already there that they kind of disabled before they shipped it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's so good, I guess.
Yeah.
Designed with VR in mind.
Exactly. So this brings me to another question. Once again, not related to Half-Life, but we're talking about like kind of hidden VR modes in games. Personally, I used to hate open world games. I didn't like playing them, like flat screen games, stuff like that. I just didn't like them. Then Rand talked me into playing Dying Light with the VR mod or VR mode that's kind of hidden in Dying Light. You could activate it. So and I was absolutely loving it. And I don't know how many hours I had in that game.
Oh,
a lot. And
tons.
Oculus updated their software to version 38, and all of a sudden I jump in, I start my stream, and the mode is completely broken. And it's like when you turn your head, instead of your head just turning in space like you'd think it would, it moves your whole body around in a circle, and it's terrible, and nothing's working. So I just thought I would bring that up and shout it out to anybody that's watching that's modding. Please somebody mod Dying Light.
Dying Light.
Because I love that game.
And while you're at it, mod Dying Light 2 as well.
Oh, no kidding.
Just
do that as well.
I mean, I think we're all on the same page here. VR mod all the things.
All the things.
In VR.
Absolutely. Have you worked on any other mods besides Half-Life 2?
Not especially, no. Like I've done a few little bits to help out with some other mods in the community, like doing a few textures here or a bit of modeling there or something. But no, pretty much just Half-Life 2.
Okay, so is that really like your main thing? Is you work with like the graphics and stuff, or?
Yeah. I do 3D modeling and texture work and stuff.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so we're from the same industry.
That isn't more of a hobby for me than an actual thing that I get paid for, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah. You guys could probably, if you actually, of course, I don't know, Valve might have something to say about that. It's like if you sold this mod, I would think you could probably make some decent money.
Maybe, yeah. It's kind of, I guess, an unclear situation. Like originally, it was always just a mod we were making, and we were going to give it away for free to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But then we got licensed by Valve, and there are some sort of stipulations in there, like when we initially negotiated with them for the license, part of the agreement was that we would just be giving it away for free on Steam, that we would not be charging for it. But that was also kind of the agreement they had with the Black Mesa guys, and now obviously Black Mesa is for sale on Steam as a product, and they're profiting from that. So obviously there is some kind of wiggle room there to flip that around, but I'm not even sure if we want to. I mean, after all these years of saying we're giving it away free, to suddenly turn around.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Now you have to pay us for it.
Yeah, psych.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think we don't really have a plan for monetizing it, but when we release it publicly, we probably will, throw out a Patreon hat or something and let people donate money if they enjoy playing it and want to pay us back for all the thousands and thousands of hours of work we put into it.
I think that would be a good move to do, absolutely, because you guys deserve it. It's brilliant. It's the best mod I've played. That's all I play is modded games, and this one, it's the best. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most difficult thing out of all the stuff you've had to do with this?
Uh, hmm. I think for me personally, the most difficult thing has been like getting core API performance stuff nailed down. Like, you know, you have to be a very sort of particular type of programmer to be able to go in and bolt, like, you know, Vulkan support onto this ancient version of Quake from 1998 or whatever that has been morphed into Half-Life 2 over the decades, and then has had our shit bolted on top, you know. Yeah, I think for me the most difficult bit is getting sort of really core changes made to the code, because again, that's like way outside of my comfort zone. I wouldn't know where to start, so I have to rely on finding other people who are, you know, smarter than me to do that for me.
Okay.
So was that also your personal success? Like moments that were like, holy shit, this is working. Do you have any of those?
Yeah, like I mentioned, kind of development had dragged for quite a while. Our then lead programmer, he went and got himself hired by Rockstar to go and work on, you know, their next generation high flying products like GTA 6 or whatever it is he's working on now. So it was it was difficult to kind of move on from there. We had some fundamental performance issues, which meant even just testing, you know, you'd put it on and getting a low frame rate and stuff would be janky and uncomfortable, and, you know, it was not even fun to experience for a while. But then Dr. Beef in particular, he came in and really helped us nail down some core performance issues and changed it from, like overnight, pretty much. He changed it from this janky thing that wasn't fun to play to something that was actually pretty smooth on your head. And, you know,
It's solid.
Half-Life thing.
Yeah, it's solid smooth. I didn't see what my frame rates were, but they had to be great because it
was.
Yeah, it felt amazing.
That's what the doctor ordered.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, that was one of my
Like,
questions, is what Dr. Beef did. So I'm glad that you answered that. I didn't
Yeah,
have to ask.
like he came in quite early in that phase of development, and he helped with some really core stuff. But then, for various reasons, he's been working on other things and doing family stuff, and he hasn't really been that involved recently. But who knows? Maybe he'll come back and get stuck in again. We talk about it sometimes, like, you know, he drops in and, you know, we keep in touch and talk about how the project's going and stuff. But yeah, he's not actively working on it right now.
He's just interested. Like I'm running right now. I'm running it on the laptop, but I'm waiting for a computer to arrive from PC Specialist here in the UK. Cool. People told me just order from there. They will build your PC, and then I took some info from Dr. Greg here. What should I get? What should I not? So I ran it on an Alienware laptop, and it ran so smooth. Like I had no issues.
No frame issues
frame
at
rate
all.
was amazing.
Yeah.
It's been really just fun. So it runs really well. And other games that I play, when I create videos with Depth 3D and Reshade, the computer gets so hot. Really, and of course I have so many issues with it. I didn't have any issue with Half-Life 2 VR mod. Peace. Word.
That's good to hear for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I play Cyberpunk. As a matter of fact, I have 216 hours into Cyberpunk now, ever since Luke Ross's mod came out, and I have a liquid cool PC, and when I'm done playing that game, that liquid stuff is just like, I mean, it's all cloudy. It's just going a million miles an hour. So.
Yeah. Like I said, the version that you're playtesting at the moment, it's using some old versions of the maps from like 2017, but it's also pretty much using all of the original Half-Life 2 content for the models and textures and stuff. So, you know, the requirements of it are really quite minimal.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the reasons why the sort of the content beta is still separate and we're not testing that yet, is because it's going to require a slightly more beefy PC to run, and there are still some performance issues we need to nail down in there before it's ready for people to run around in it.
Yeah. Yeah. But one of the things that I created a video for is there's a mod for Half-Life 2. It's called Cinema M mod. And they really redid all the textures. Some of it kind of got lost of the Half-Life 2 visuals.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dirt maps, and it looks amazing. It looks really good, but it's not really Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Half-Life 2 fans that just...
Yeah. No, I'm nervous, man. Like, they did do a lot of really good work on that cinematic mod.
Yeah.
But they did kind of change stuff a bit too much for my tastes. I'm very much like a purist. Whenever we've, upscaled a texture or added more polygons to a model or something, our core sort of issue has always been, our core sort of priority has always been just kind of like overcoming the limitations that they were forced to adhere to. It's like you can tell they would have put more polygons in there or made that higher resolution, but it was 2004 and your average video card had 64 meg of RAM or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I had a video card then.
I don't. Yeah.
It was just
2006 was no 96 was when I got my first PC. And I remember I got it, and I sat down with this guy this place in this town next to us they built your custom PC, and we had all the best parts on this PC. And he's like, and this is a 2 gigabyte hard drive. He's like, you will never use that much space. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I remember that.
It should be enough for anyone.
Yeah, it would get so hot when I'd play games. I had to take the cover off of it and blow a fan on it because all the graphics would start disappearing because it would get so hot.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think it was like Windows 95 or something like that. That's right.
Yeah. 311, I think it was.
Yeah, I don't know. It was bad. It was a bad PC. But hey, it ran emulators pretty good. That's all I cared about. So.
See?
Hey, here's a question. Somebody answer this for me because I've asked it before. I've never really got an answer, I don't think. Where the hell did the Combine come from in Half-Life 2? Because now that I've played through all of it, I mean, you get to the end of Black Mesa, there's no Combine. And then at Alex, they're there. But were we ever
answered questions that in the Half-Life 2 universe? Some of them have been kind of answered out of universe by the writer and stuff. But, I think as I understand it, the Combine, they sort of detected the shenanigans in Half-Life 1, and that kind of drew them to the Earth. But I'm not sure exactly where they come from.
We don't know where they come from or anything. Okay, all right. So that's I'm not crazy then. I was just like,
no, there are just
who are these people?
That we were hoping would get answered in Half-Life 3, but that never happened.
Yeah.
And Alex, they kind of sidestepped answering any of those questions by retrofitting it into 5 years before Half-Life 2 kind of thing.
Yeah, and then they said something about it was the 7-year war or 7-day war. 7-minute war. Okay, yeah, I didn't remember what exactly that was. So I'm assuming that's when that Combine just showed up. It's like we're your leaders now.
Pretty much, yeah. There's a newspaper. It's in Half-Life 2, but they made a high-res version of it for Half-Life Alyx, and it's surrenders, and then there's a photo of the United Nations building after being struck by an orbital bombardment from Combine forces in space and stuff.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. That
Interesting.
That's still not really a satisfactory answer.
Yeah, there are just a lot of huge unanswered questions with Half-Life 2. People have been speculating for years about some of this stuff.
Well, they need to do a prequel then that explains this stuff. I think that would be amazing.
I would like more Half-Life 2 games for sure, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Half-Life Barney. Somebody said something about that.
Yeah, I mean, he must have been up to something in those years between Black Mesa and Half-Life 2. Who knows? He could have had all kinds of crazy adventures. What I want is the head crab hero, the story of Lamar, the pet head crab.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Integral to the whole Half-Life universe. If she hadn't jumped into that teleporter and caused the malfunction, then Gordon wouldn't have alerted Dr. Breen, and he wouldn't have had that teleporter accident. He'd have gone straight to the Black Mesa East facility with Eli and Alex.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just that one head crab was the right head crab in the wrong place or something.
Yep. The debeaked head, when they say she's been debeaked, I'm like, that's cruel. I'm calling PETA.
It's brilliant. He's like, hop up now, pet. And tries to get her to jump off his
Yeah.
head.
Yeah. You did mention when that happened in the game, you did mention that Valve left a horrible cat model in the source.
Yeah, there's just this random
the
bit of
assets.
dialogue in the lab there where
Yeah, the
Dr.
cat.
is like, yeah, Alex is like, what cat? But they
What
never
cat?
talk about it, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and in the like huge pile of models and textures and stuff that Valve gave us, because they cut like most of the content that they made for Half-Life 2. There's like 3 times as much stuff they made that just never showed up in the game.
Wow.
And one of those things is this model just called Cat. It's got no texture, but it kind of looks like the front end looks like a cat, but then the back end is all kind of like, I don't know, deformed or something, like it's been melted or something.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
great.
It would be so cool
Now,
to actually find that somewhere.
Do you have the right to use things that were not published?
Yeah. The Valve gave us just all of the stuff that they had for Half-Life, and Half-Life 1
Nice.
and Portal and Day of Defeat Source and a load of other games as well.
Wow.
Same license.
Okay,
Nice.
there we go. That was the other question I was going to ask when I had a brain fart. Somebody had asked while I think I was in the lab with Dr. Kleiner, and right before the teleporting, they were asking about other Source games. Now, the way I understand it, I think there's a Portal or a Portal 2 mod being made.
Portal 2?
I'm not sure. I don't know if you knew anything about that or not, or.
Been a few different Portal mods and Team Fortress 2 mods and stuff over the years. I don't think any of them have really come to anything. But just recently, there has been one guy who was working on a Portal mod who has now joined our team.
Okay.
He's kind of like working on some of our code now at the moment. Because our plan originally was always to make Half-Life 2 VR, and then we'd have like a solid Source Engine VR base that we could use to make Portal VR and Team Fortress 2 VR and
Left 4 Dead VR. Yeah.
I love some Left 4 Dead. I played the shit out of that on the flat screen back in the day.
Yeah.
The Left 4 Dead 2 VR mod guy is now kind of part of our, we call ourselves the Source VR team. It's our little group on Discord. And like the plan is still that, you know, once we've got a solid core foundation in Source Engine working, we can use it to VR all the things.
Oh my God, that kind of stuff is so exciting to me. This
I
is
love
why.
some Day of Defeat Source in VR. I loved that game back in the day as well.
Which game? I'm sorry.
The World War II multiplayer one, where it's like Germans versus Allies playing capture points
Okay.
and stuff.
Okay, so I'm not even aware of that one. Okay,
Oh.
this is the big one, and I saved it for last because I knew if we just said it right at the beginning, everybody would be like, okay, and then they shut off. But everybody wants to know, when is this mod going to be released to the public?
This is a good question. The plan is basically this year for sure, definitely. But there are a couple of things we need to nail down first. And as you noticed in your playthrough, like some of the weapons aren't fully implemented yet. Like when you're trying to reload the revolver, it was really confusing because the animations don't line up with the state of the weapon.
Yeah, because the bullets are still in the gun. I was like, well, the bullets are in there.
So there's a few things we need to nail down still, but no real sort of show-stopping issues at this point. So we're confident we can release it this year. It's just a matter of when. Because first we have to run it past Valve and show it to them. At the very least, we have to like submit it on Steam and have it reviewed before it goes live. That happens with all Steam products.
Yeah.
But also, specifically, part of the license agreement we have with Valve is that we show it to them first and they give it the thumbs up before we release it to the public. I kind of vaguely thought it would be nice to release it on the 18th anniversary of Half-Life 2's release, which is coming up in November, but that's still a way off, so maybe we'll release it a little bit before then or something. There's no clear date yet, but definitely this year, I think.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, at least people know. Because I know a lot of people, because they're always, whenever you play something that hasn't been released, that's the huge question. Well, how did you get this? Well, and I saw in Discord some people were, not happy, and you're not going to make anybody happy all the time, though. I mean, that's just the way it is. But it's coming, and it's coming soon.
Soon,
And
yes.
yeah, and that's important.
Source traditions soon.
Soon. All right.
Three.
Man, Half-Life 3. When's that going to happen? I can't believe they haven't done it, man. Especially the way they ended Alex.
That kind of rubbed me the wrong way a bit. It was like, really? They put you back in the suit and give you the crowbar, and then they just end the game now?
And then it's done. Yeah, I know. It's like, no. I mean, that it didn't really mean anything to me the first time I had played it, because Alex was my very first exposure to the Half-Life universe, really. Besides a little bit that I played a Half-Life 2 before I quit.
If you played Half-Life 2 and Episode 2 and stuff, that probably didn't really mean much to you.
Yeah.
Now, okay.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, but still, knowing now, that's just such a cruel thing to do if they're not. Of course, Valve. They don't really announce what they're working on ever. So.
No, I hope that they're still working on an actual, if not a Half-Life 3, at least another chapter in that universe. They did kind of paint themselves into the corner there a bit by the originals being so good. It was just like the first game in particular, it introduced so many new groundbreaking things that you can't really do that again. You can't go, here you go, I've raised the bar now, because the bar is already up there on the top of Mount Everest. You need space rockets or something to get it in time to go to truly the next level. And I think they kind of do have that potential with VR. Like Half-Life Alyx, they did play it very safe. Like, obviously, it's beautiful, the quality is brilliant, it's all polished, it runs great and everything, but it is very safe.
Very safe.
That other people hadn't already done and proven was a solid VR mechanic, So I'm hoping that maybe they are working on something and people will put their headset on and be like, holy shit, this is blowing my mind. I've never seen anything like this. Again.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that way with Alex, just because, I mean, that first scene when you're standing on the balcony and the white fades in and the helicopter flies over, just seeing all the life in the city, and it's mind blowing. And the game, what they did was absolutely brilliant. And maybe that's the big thing they did with Half-Life, is just putting it in VR like that instead of doing the other things. But you're missing out on a ton of action. You're never facing more than 3 Combine at a time, and they're even on hard, they're really easy to take down. I mean, it is a very, when you look at it gameplay wise compared to Half-Life 2 and Black Mesa, or even first, it's very, very, it's easy, and
that's definitely quite simple in gameplay terms, for sure.
Yeah. So I would love to see. That's why I keep harping. That's why I love people like yourself and all of these amazing modders that are bringing us these real full game experiences in VR now, because we're missing out on that. We're missing out on it. We were missing out on it, honestly.
Big companies like Activision or whoever aren't doing this. I guess it's not profitable enough for them. Their bean counters do the sums, and it's like, why would we do that? We'll only make $1 million profit. That's not good enough.
Yeah.
But it's always been a kind of a dream of mine to bring all of these classic games into VR. Even back in the earliest days of the Oculus Kickstarter and stuff, I tried to get Palmer and Nate to hire me to produce VR versions of existing games. Where we would actually license this old source code that was gathering dust in some drawer somewhere and make a VR version of that game to run on the Oculus platform, kind of thing. Obviously, that never came to pass, but it's good to see that it is still happening nonetheless.
Oh, yeah, it is. And it's, I mean, this is, if anything, 2022 has been the year of the mod. I mean,
it has been.
We've just had, I mean, Luke Ross is cranking them out, and Prey Dogs mods. And
out now as well, the Resident Evil.
And, those are fantastic.
GTA 4.
There was
to VR officially on the Quest platform. Crazy stuff. I'm interested to see how that looks.
Yeah, me too.
There was one note that I wrote, and I'm not sure what it meant, but I think I remember now. I wrote levels in brackets all for Half-Life 2, and what I meant by that, I think, was because it's an external file with the game, and you basically did something else with the engine. Are we going to be able, like, because I finished it in Pancake in Vorpex, can I load files from my previous gameplay, or is it I need to play it through in VR?
I think your old save games from the flat version will probably be incompatible. I mean, you can try it, but it might just when you try to load them, I think.
Yeah, I haven't tried, and that's why I'm like, maybe.
But I mean, if you want to skip the bit you've already played, that's easy enough. You can just bring up the console, type in the map command, and it will load whatever map you want.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that's nice. You can just go ahead and skip through the chapters too at the beginning. You don't have to play through the whole game, unless maybe you do. Maybe you do, and I've just already done it. So.
I tried, and it keeps starting. It says new game. Even though I select a different chapter, I need to do with the console, I guess, like you said.
It's possible there's still some bugs with the chapter selection thing, but the way it's supposed to work is that the first time you play the game, all you get is just new game. And then as you progress through and unlock new chapters, it lets you...
Okay. Yeah, because they're all there for me. But then I've already beaten the game on my system, so that might be why.
Possibly, yeah. Or it could just be like our default settings in the config files. Just say that because we've played it so many times. We might have to change that so it doesn't default to unlocking them all. It could just be for the beta. I don't remember why.
Here's another quick question that I had. Somebody had mentioned it, and I was thinking about it as I was playing it as well. Is there anybody have you ever thought about bringing somebody in to get like the B haptics working with it, like the mod for Alex?
Yeah. I mean, we were kind of partnered with B haptics at one point. They sent a development kit to our then lead programmer, and he was kind of working on B haptics support. But like I mentioned previously, he's now working at Rockstar on simulating next generation horse testicles or something. We no longer even have a haptics unit in the team to test on. So it's something we've thought about doing, but
you should contact him. Get a hold of Alex VR and see. Maybe I bet you if you would include something like that, they would love to have that. I would think included in their game lineup. I bet you they'd send you the dev kit.
I always wanted to support like any VR hardware. I don't know if you remember the 6 cents TEM, the STEM Kickstarter. It was going to be like controllers for VR back before Oculus released their own controllers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we were actually partnered with them as well, and Half-Life 2 VR was going to be basically shipping with their product as one of the things that you can play with the STEM controllers. But that never happened either. I think they sort of failed FCC compliance testing or something, just never managed to release the product and had to refund everybody and stuff. That was a big issue.
Wow. That's got to be heartbreaking when you work on something like that.
It sucked for many reasons. One of them being that they had already licensed Portal 2 from Valve and had made a full 6 Degrees of Freedom VR version of Portal 2, which was going to release alongside their STEM controllers. But again, it never happened, and that is just like in limbo somewhere.
Oh, wow. Well, you guys got your engine going now, so when that's done, Portal 2 will be a piece of cake, right? Just flip a switch and you're done.
I mean, technically speaking, they are all sort of very similar versions of the engine. So once we've nailed down a sort of core VR experience with Half-Life 2, it should be relatively easy to then make VR versions of other Source Engine games.
Oh man, that's so exciting!
Source code for them.
Yeah. This is why I love doing this podcast, because we get all this great information and all of it just makes me giddy.
Yeah.
Future is looking bright for sure.
Oh man. All right. Okay, well
Cool.
that covers pretty much everything I had for questions. What about you, Fran?
Yeah, because it was pretty much the same questions. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3 that you answered, and then you gave us so much information that I just had to just mark out as you went. So Thank you so much.
They're like my two favorite things. So I'm happy to talk about either of them.
Oh yeah. Hey, I'm streaming tomorrow. I'm going to start in Ravenholm. So if you want to stop by 1 o'clock, same time as last time. So I'll put it up today.
6.
So if you want to join, that'd be great.
Yeah. I'll have to figure out the time zones, but yeah, I think I probably will drop in for that.
I think it's 7 our time.
Oh, actually, maybe not then. I run a weekly D&D game that starts at 7 on Sundays.
Are you a DM?
Well,
yeah,
I'm normally the DM. Like, we've got a little group.
I figured.
Sort of a forever DM.
I figured.
Just last week, we started doing our Sunday game with one of my players as the dungeon master and me as a player. So I get to stand to one side and make his life difficult for a change.
That's something I never did. D&D. My son, right over here in the basement, they'd have this big setup, and they would like hang all these Christmas lights around, and they'd have tons of junk food, and him and his buddy, and he would do the DM stuff, and I just have a basement full of kids, and I'd listen to them all screaming for hours on end. I mean, those kids would play forever, and I was like, wow, that must be a lot of fun. I was missing out when I was a kid, but when I was a kid. Well, all of us are about the same age, I'm sure. But, back in the 80s when D&D was really big, I mean, I live in a very conservative, religious area. And that's back, didn't Tom Hanks, was it Tom Hanks that did the movie about how D&D like turned him to Satan and all that shit?
It wasn't D&D, it was Monsters and Mazes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Monsters and Mazes.
Yeah, it was typical satanic panic nonsense.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks play D&D and they go mad and think it's all real and Tom Hanks actually ends up like jumping off a car park thinking that he can fly or something. It's a very silly movie. Well, I mean, it's not just a thing for kids, you should try it out sometime.
I really should. Yeah, because I tried Demio. We've played it a few times, and Demio, it really frustrates. I enjoyed the social aspect of it, just getting together with the guys and playing. But that game frustrated the hell out of me so much because, you'd sit there and you'd spend 3-4 hours and get nowhere because you just end up dying. And then you'd have to start all over again.
Demio does a pretty good job of replicating like the mechanics of playing a D&D game when you're in combat because it is, like a sort of turn-based combat.
And I love turn-based combat, but I just felt like that's all it was. There's no real story there. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, but that's the thing, like it emulates that bit of it really well, but that's only like a small part of D&D. The sort of, the role-playing, the storytelling, that is like a very big part of it as well.
That's what I loved the most about D&D. The most. I used to play like a cleric for years. Then when my character died, I was heartbroken. I was depressed for a couple of days. Because you know how you
their characters, it's like an alternate personality, an alter ego.
It is.
Like
an
aspect of
totally.
yourself.
Yeah.
But I played an illusionist thief, and then just to come up with, okay, there's a treasure box, and I want to unlock it with because I was a thief, but I had to think, what if it's booby trap? So it's just like to come up with solutions and to talk with your teammates or your group. That's what I really, really enjoy doing. More so than just
with interactive game like that. Like if you play Demio or something, you're very much confined by what they've programmed into the game. It works in that one way, and that's it. There is no other way to solve that puzzle. It's like you do A,
exactly.
That's it. Whereas in D&D, it's much more of a sort of negotiation. It's like whatever you can convince the dungeon master to let you get away with at that moment in time. And I often do let my players get away with shit that isn't even technically correct according to the rules, but in that moment in time, it's like they say, "Hey, I'm going to do this thing," and I'm like, "God damn, that's brilliant! That's awesome! You can actually that was hilarious."
All right, well,
amazing.
I'll tell you what, I think that's good for this one. We were gonna do, we like to do Vorpex segments, and I was gonna do Metro 2033, and absolute disaster. That's why I ended up streaming Half-Life instead, because it just was not working. I mean, at first I couldn't even boot the game at first. I had to go into something on Microsoft Store and download something that repaired something so the game would even boot up. And then once I got it booted up, the screen was all messed up and there were these weird lines all over it, and that wasn't working. And then once I got that figured out, it would run for a couple seconds and crash. And then I finally got through where it was playing, and I put it on, and I was like, wow, this frame rate is terrible. So I tried to make some adjustments in the settings to maybe make the frame rate better. It would crash. I'm like, okay, I can't stream this. so right now I'm just going to say, Vorpex, there's my Vorpex segment. Don't try and play Metro 2033. It's a nightmare.
No. I believe it works pretty well for some other games, but apparently not Metro at the moment.
No, it works great for Black Mesa. That's what we covered last show. It's brilliant with Black Mesa, except for the image flicker and the gun. And apparently, Fran had the same issues, and he tried to fix it, and there's just no fixing it. There's the gun constantly flashes. It's really bizarre. All right, so there it is, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you, Wormslayer, for being here and answering all of our questions. That was so awesome. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it was great. So now hopefully that answered your questions about Half-Life 2, and the big question: when is it going to release? This year. It's coming. So, hey, make sure you hit like and subscribe, click the little bell thingy, comment on the video action. We had some great interaction with our last video, and we love talking to you guys and hear what you have to say. And we had some great suggestions. We are on Spotify now. I still need to get on Apple Music. I haven't done that yet, or Apple Podcasts, whatever the heck it is. I don't know. But anyway, we'll be back with another episode in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching, guys. Dr. Greg out. Brand, you can say
bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye, Wormslayer. Bye, guys.